So these are the pieces that we created 2 weeks ago, and this was the one that we watercolored. I went ahead and cut them out, and you can see I started adding 3-dimensional foam tape to the back side to give these some dimension. So I'm just showing you those pieces now on this floral piece. And once they're on there, you simply remove the backing paper from each of those pieces if you were going to want to actually stick them down. But I'm using them for dimension at this time, just so I can show you some of the things that I started to work with using design principles. So I'm going to show you a number of backgrounds using the same images to demonstrate different design principles. And this one demonstrates the focal point. And when it first went down, the focal point was the flower. It could still be the flower, but in this circumstance, I feel like maybe that word kind of took over. So I'm playing with it a little bit more here. Changing the word to hello, trying a couple different layouts. Adding a smaller bit of text. It's always good to use multiple types of text, but not too many fonts all at once. So I have a scripty font, and then I have a simple sort of typed font with the words I love you. And now I'm just dressing it up with a few crystals. I left this in the video because I struggle tremendously to figure out sometimes where to put the crystals, how to line them up, make them look good. See a little bit close up there. Still not loving this. I'm going to try moving them up into the white space a bit. Grouping them in odd numbers. Spreading them out a bit. Really just not loving this. And in the end, I decided to take the crystals out entirely. This is a crystal katana. It's a wand with a wax tip, and on the other side is a setting tip. So using the wax tip, you pick up the crystals, you can lay down some glue, put them back down, and use the setting tip to push down. It's a little bit on the pricey side, but it really does help if you're going to be doing a lot with crystals and other small embellishments like that. So now I've kind of given up on that design, moved on to a different one using a triangle of that same black and white stripe. You will notice throughout these cards that I'm using all black and white decorative papers. I have up and down stripes, diagonal stripes, and later on you'll see I have some polka dots as well. So here that flower is definitely the focal point. And it also provides some contrast. It gives us a pop of color to this layout. Everything else is black and white, and then you have this really brightly colored flower. Turning it around. It's the beauty of cards. You can either go landscape or horizon. Sorry, not horizon. Landscape or portrait is what I meant to say. So here I'm trying a few more ideas for this particular layout. This is a tough one because of the triangle. One of the things you want to think about when you're doing your cards is that you have a good balance or alignment, and that has to do with the weight of your design. So here it's a little jarring to have that flower on the tip of a pyramid. Just doesn't feel right. It works a little better with a longer word like celebrate, but still don't love it. So let's move on. Here I'm working with 2 triangles. First I'm going to face them point to point. Divides up the card and gives you 2 areas of white space. White space, by the way, doesn't always have to be white. White space is simply blank areas where your eye is allowed to rest. And on a card like this, with this kind of pattern paper, having some white space is a really good thing. So here I decided to flip the bottom triangle upside down, and I'm going to leave the flower in the center again. What I'm trying to do here is make sure that you can see that there's 2 triangles, so you can see those points on the bottom triangle up the left and right sides. It was a little challenging. In the end, I kind of liked it. A little different. Again, maybe not my favorite, but I really do. I like the way that flower is centered in there. Just looks quite different. And so here, starting with a white background, somewhat centering a black piece of cardstock, and then centering on top of that a striped black and white pattern. Now here you see that emphasis, or that focal point of the flower. With some simple text, it's really effective. It's not a difficult design, but it really does have some pop. And I like it a lot. But here I'm going to change it up just a bit. Moving over the black paper over to the left side. The same thing with the stripe. Continuing to put the flower centered on the stripe. Playing with some text. Didn't really like that. And this is how I design most of my cards. I just keep playing around with the pieces and parts until I get them to a pleasing design. I like this because, again, it's a little bit different. The text is going sideways. Didn't like it way up in the top. Liked it a little bit better near the bottom. Again, that's because of the weight and the balance. So now I'm turning it around, seeing if I like it this way better. Just could not get that smaller bit of text to work for me. Ended up trying it on the flower, which I think I liked better. But overall, this just wasn't quite doing it for me. So we'll move along to the next design. So now we're starting with a black background, adding a diagonal stripe that is cut just short of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so that there's a black frame around the edge, and I also die cut a circle right in the upper left corner. I'm using that to bring some emphasis to the flower as well. This is a very simple card, but I really like it. Then playing around with that little bit of text. And you see I'm using my tweezers here. A lot of times when you're making cards, using just your fingers can be a little bit difficult. Having some tweezers that stay closed until you squeeze them open really helps to lay things out and get your fingers out of the way. So here I moved the flower away from the circle, added my text up at the top, moved the flower down to the bottom. So that brings the focal point more to the text and creates a whole different look. So now we're going to use the piece that I cut out of that striped background, just that circle on a piece of black cardstock. I'm going to play around with this design. Started with the stripes horizontal. Decided to give that a twist so that my stripes are vertical here. Decided to change up the word. Really like this scripty font. It looks like modern calligraphy. And then settled on a nice cursive straight font. Decided to add another little bit of text again. Always going for that balance with straight lines. You can see celebrate is a horizontal line. That small bit of text is a horizontal line, both in white. And then you have the vertical stripes of white. So a nice grouping of 3 sets of white. Repetition of colors, of fonts, of design elements all make for pleasing design ideas. And here I'm using some triangles, trying to fit my flower in there in a pleasing manner, which can be achieved really nicely with the addition of the leaves. Helps to fill in that space. If I wanted to, I could cut more leaves, or I could leave out a couple. And again, I'm going to end up using one of the small sort of typed font pieces in a moment. Trying again the 2 different words, celebrate and then thanks. I really kind of like both of them. And as you're watching this, you know, you can see that it would be very fun to make a grouping of cards. You could make a group of them and then give them to a friend for a gift. This is, I'm going to show you putting together a card from start to finish. So I had already put the background, the polka dotted pattern paper with the circle cut out on the black background, using different kinds of glue for different jobs. Those dot liners are great for larger sections. Glue, liquid glue of any type is really good for something that you might need to wiggle around and need a little extra drying time. And again, using those tweezers makes all the difference, especially laying something like this out. I'm going to add some more liquid glue to the word hello, pop that down in the bottom right corner. And I'm putting a block, stamping block on top of it just to put some weight, to give it a chance to really adhere to that cardstock. Here I'm adding pop dots to our stackable cuties that we colored last week, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago, with the colored pencils. And I've laid this all out. I knew exactly how I wanted to create this card. So what you're seeing here is just the final processing. I'm starting with the elephant, tucking that fox onto his head, onto the elephant's head. Next is the dog. Now here you see, I had to make sure that when I was putting the three-dimensional adhesive, that I move it up a little bit so that I can tuck the animal on top slightly onto the animal below. You gotta be careful about where you place those adhesives. Finishing up with a kitty, and now again, that little bit of text. And I'm going to add some embellishments. This is a finished card, so this is where I like to add more repetition to achieve some movement with my cards. Anytime you put things in a triangular arrangement, you are going to create movement. So here you're going to see there's 3 red hearts. Actually there's 4, but 3 different places where I put the hearts. Those are going to bring your eyes all around the design so that you're looking at more than just one focal point. This is that card that I started with. The design I ended up going with in the end, I moved the black over so that the black and white stripes on the white are not equal. Added some pearls, 2 on one side, 3 on the other, for a total of 5. Odd numbers are very pleasing to the eye, and I tend to go for those a lot. I also did this as a top folding card because of the long stripes. This one is with the watering can that we did with the markers. Added a lot of pearls all around the edge. Did that triangular formation, top and bottom. Here's that animal card again, the stackable cuties, and I'm just showing you here the little eyes and nose, as you can see when it twists. Using that glaze pen really does bring those black pieces to life. Adds a lot to it. This is the other watering can. Again, groups of 3 on either side, so I kept it symmetrical, and yet with odd numbers. Have to have the bling. Anyone who knows me knows you gotta have the bling. Had a lot of fun with that card. And that about does it for this week. Look forward to seeing you again next, or in 2 more weeks. Have a great day.